Hello, my friends. It's Jules Caldwell coming back to you today. It is day 4, session 4, our final series of the She's Got Plans, Real Talk About Women and Wealth and What Matters series. And welcoming back my good friend, Matthew Henley. Hi, Matthew. Thanks for coming back for week 4.
Hi, Julie. Hi, everyone. Great to be here again. And thanks again for having me here, Julie.
So excited to have had you join us for the last couple of weeks. And I'm sad that this is our last day, but I think we've got another good conversation coming up today. And I think it's going to be a good one. So actually, before we jump in, for anybody who's joining us for the first time following along, week 1, we talked about, so the purpose behind the series was really to just create a space for women to have a conversation, to learn more about the importance of taking care of our financial well-being. And so in week 1, we talked about where do I even start? So understanding the financial picture, getting clear on where you're at today, like really going back to the basics. In week 2, we explored investing without intimidation. And so learning how to make our money work for us with confidence. And last week, we tackled what's enough, rethinking retirement on our terms. And we had some great conversation around that and, what our definition of enough is and what we might need for this next chapter. And what I love about last week's conversation was it wasn't about the coming to the end of things. It was about what's next and where we go. So if you missed any of those sessions and you want to catch up, feel free to join us. You can check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com at Country Jewel Retreats, and you can find all of the videos there, and our session today will be there as well. But today we are focusing on our last session. It's called Protect What Matters, Planning for Life's What-Ifs Before You Need to. Matthew, this topic sounds kind of ominous. What are we going to be unpacking?
Today we're going to talk about some of the key steps to take when planning for the future and how to protect what matters most to you. And, maybe depending on your age or life stage, that might mean different things. But whether it's your finances, maybe a personal legacy, maybe your children's future. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. We'll dive into will and estate planning, how do you use life insurance, and when and how to include your children or loved ones in your financial decision making.
That sounds juicy, actually. Not ominous at all. I love it.
Oh,
no. It's funny because at a few different points in my life, when I was younger, I didn't think I needed to worry about this kind of thing. And then when I got married, I was like, my husband's taking care of that kind of stuff. And then when I found myself divorced, I was like, oh my goodness, not only did I not know what was going on with my financial affairs, but I kind of lost the sense of like, am I even protected or not? And I hadn't thought to ask questions about my will or insurance or what if. And it makes you really just stop and pause sometimes. And they're not meant to be scary questions. They're meant to be good questions, right? So that we leave ourselves in a place of feeling protected and our loved ones feeling protected. So I think this conversation isn't about fear. It's really about how we can have freedom in our life, knowing that we're protected and things are taken care of, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's funny because, nobody likes to think about this. Nobody likes to think about, an eventual end or even sickness, illness, worst case scenarios or bad things happening. But the reality is that they do. And quite frankly, even if they don't, it's still better to have that plan in place that you never have to use or touch. It's it doesn't cost anything other than a little bit of time. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that today, how important it is. But, I know when I went through the process, it's a weird feeling when you're, creating a plan in the event of a serious illness or death and how to ensure my family is taken care of. But I find most of my clients who go through this process feel a sense of relief when it's over, because really no matter what happens after the plan's in place, your major concern, whether it's family or whatever it might be, everyone's situation's unique, but what matters most is protected and taken care of. And there are a lot of tools to help you create a sense of financial security to protect what matters most. So that might mean a will, estate plan, power of attorney, insurance plan. But for those joining us today, even if you're younger and not necessarily thinking about that stage of life, there are ways to protect what matters most to you now. Maybe that's just simply financial education for your children, creating a financial plan for yourself, your family, using some of the tools available, and really including the next generation into your process.
Yeah, I love that. I know that's one of the things that I've started doing with my own kids. They're, young adults now in their 20s, and I own my home. And so one of my kids, is very active in helping take care of things at home and the maintenance, and is really serious about the idea of owning a home one day and everything. And so I've been looking into, well, what do I do in the event that I'm not around anymore? How can I ensure that he has access to the home and that things are taken care of for him in that way? And, chatting with, my daughter around, she knows me really well from a health perspective. And so understanding, the life things that need to be taken care of, and where's my will, and what are my choices for what I would like to have, in my life, and that kind of stuff. And so starting the conversation early with them, and so that they're a part of it and they're engaged in it, and it helps them also learn about what they need to think about for themselves one day too.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what are so you've talked about some different things around protection, but like, what does protection mean in, I don't know, is it financial terms or just in general? What does protection mean? What should we be thinking about?
Start thinking about how to preserve your finances, your legacy, making sure that whatever's important to you will continue with continuity and longevity after you're gone. And I find a lot of people are, perhaps concerned, don't want to talk about, I don't know what to say, not to jinx it, but don't want to talk about impending doom or anything. Yeah. So think about it this way: if you weren't here yesterday, if something happened to you and you weren't here yesterday, we can say that because we know that that's not the case. Yeah. What would you, how would you want your finances to be handled? How would you want assets divided? How would you want your children or loved ones taken care of? If it was a sickness or illness, how would you want the hospital to take care of you, or healthcare professionals to take care of you? Consider all of these things and just have a plan in place. It won't come as a surprise, but I think step one to feeling a bit more confident about what might come your way is to have your financial plan in place, and that process will consider illnesses or caregiving needs, missed work, unexpected expenses to some degree. Yeah. And that will help you decide what tools make the most sense for your situation.
I love that. I think that makes sense. You've used the word a couple of times, legacy, and I love that word as well, because a couple years ago, I read a book about legacy, and it was actually about not waiting until after we pass on to leave a legacy. It was about how to live our life now in a way that we can leave this powerful legacy, to the people that we serve and our family and those that surround us. And I think a lot of what you're talking about here is the life we live. And, I talk about this a lot when I work with the women that I work with. Is like, what is the vision for the life that you want to have? How do we preserve your ability to continue to live your life the way that you want to live, and with the passion and purpose? You got to have resources to do it, and you need to be protected along the way, so that when life does throw you a curveball, you're prepared and you're ready. But it's about building your legacy now and dotting your I's and crossing your T's, so that you don't have to worry about scrambling when unexpected things happen, like changes in your career or health changes, or those types of things that come along.
And for, for the sake of these conversations, we certainly don't want to presume everyone has children. I
Yep.
meet with a lot of people who maybe they feel their children are in a comfortable position. Maybe they're older. There are many reasons why all of your finances don't necessarily get passed directly down to children. For all sorts of reasons. So I see a lot of women who care passionately about charitable causes,
Yes.
and spend either a lot of time working with charities, or want to find ways to contribute more to charities. And there are some great tools to and tax benefits, quite frankly, from tools like donating stock instead of funds that help probably allow you to give a larger donation than you have before. And there are great tools to use to increase the amount of giving and help define your legacy through charitable giving.
That's a brilliant idea. I love that. I happen to have worked with a woman who was in that situation, didn't have kids, and was fairly financially well off, and was looking at what are her options. What could she do with her money that was giving back in some way, shape, or form, and leave a legacy in that way.
Yeah, and like everything we talk about, it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you're looking for tax efficient ways to maximize your charitable giving, there's probably it's probably worth a conversation.
I actually find that's one of the biggest things that I've done for myself. I personally believe in giving back, and so I give, I'll say, roughly 10% of whatever I make from my pay. I choose to give that back to different organizations. And like you say, it has really powerful tax benefits. Sometimes I do it and I get the official, tax receipt records. Sometimes I do it just for, to know that I've made a difference, in that side of things. But there are definitely some benefits to doing that kind of thing as well.
Absolutely.
So, Matthew, what if, we're at this point and there's somebody listening right now or watching, and they realize they actually don't really have any of these things in place, maybe no insurance, or they've never reviewed a will or have a will at all. What's a good first step, or something simple that doesn't feel overwhelming to get started?
Okay. Well, I'm a very visual learner, so I'll try and map it out step by step. If
Okay.
My recommendations are, of course, to start with your financial plan, understand your expenses now and what they could look like into retirement and in different stages of your life. Use some tools online to consider, how to protect yourself and protect your income in the case of a serious disability, whether it's short-term or long-term. Make sure your accounts are up to date. And what I mean is your registered accounts, your TFSAs or RSPs, make sure you have your beneficiaries listed, and have a conversation with the beneficiaries so they know that they're listed as beneficiaries. Have your emergency.
Actually, why is that important?
Well, I don't listen. Let make sure it's a great way to start include. I oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes it's if it's children listed as beneficiaries, it's a great way to start including them in your own financial planning or life planning. It's a great way to start that conversation. So that's why I like when clients are meeting with their children, talking about, not necessarily the responsibility of being a beneficiary, but that they are listed as one.
Okay, fair enough.
Have your emergency funds in place. Some say 3 months, 6 months of expenses for an emergency fund. I think let's start with what is manageable for you. More is better. Some is better than nothing. So start having that squared away, and start considering if you want extra protection, maybe through insurance, to protect you from a revenue standpoint, for example. Have an up-to-date will. This is so important, and another one of those things people love to put off.
Yes.
Speak to a professional, a lawyer, about having a power of attorney, maybe specifically for financial matters and possibly a separate one for personal care. Start paying more attention to tax planning. I think most Canadians are surprised when they start planning for later stages of life and estate planning in afterlife, the tax consequences and tax responsibilities. So start planning now, start considering what that looks like and the tools that exist to help ease the tax burden later in life and afterlife.
So I can't tell by the way you just described that if that was a good thing or a bad thing when you said folks are surprised when they find out the implications. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
No, I'm going to say it's more of a bad thing.
Okay.
They're without proper planning, you can estate taxes can be something
right.
that many people don't consider, and the burden is passed on to the estate and can take away from loved ones. So just be mindful, be aware in your planning process of what that can look like, because there are so many ways to address it while you're still, living, active, earning.
Yeah.
And finally, consider if a trust makes sense for your situation. It's maybe slightly less common, but there, like I said, there's all sorts of tools to maximize tax efficiency.
And just because you mentioned it, can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean about a trust?
Essentially, creating an entity that is that is run by or owned by children or family members that
so we're passing on money or
owns assets. Exactly.
Got it. Okay. All right. Awesome. So that makes so much sense. So thank you for laying out some of those. I'm a very structured person as well, and so I love the simplicity of the checklist of things that you just shared with us. And I think for me, one of the biggest shifts has been realizing that protection isn't a one-time decision. It's actually something you review as life changes. And I think a lot of people might make that mistake in thinking, oh, I've done it, but it was 10 or it was 15 years ago. And life shifts, people in our life shift, value of things change, legalities change in different ways. And so I'm wondering, how often should women revisit their protection plans or check in on whether or not things still fit their current season of life?
It's funny the number of times I'll meet with a woman who's looking for an advisor or existing client, and we start talking about the wills, and they haven't had updated their will since their divorce, and it's very common. You're exactly right, though, that reviewing these things should be done regularly. Maybe that's annually, depending on your circumstance, but it's this part of planning is an ongoing process that constantly shifts and evolves. But if you're going through a major life transition, even like a new job or home, obviously perhaps separation or divorce, it's worth reviewing your situation to make sure you're up to date and protecting what matters most.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
And that your wishes are going to be met in the event something happens.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's important too, right? And that's, again, part of the reason why it's important to share with the people that are going to be dealing with some of this stuff, what your intentions are and what your wishes are, so that they know how to be able to take the next step whenever that time comes for doing so. One of the things that's really stuck with me in our conversations is how much peace of mind actually comes just simply from being informed. I have allowed so much anxiety and space in my mind of worry because I was, I avoided being informed because it felt complicated. And that's, again, another reason why you and I are doing this series, that at the end of the day, while there are things that could be complicated or complex, depending on our situations and circumstances, it's actually better to be informed now so that we can take care of the things we need to do. And the moment you and I started having conversations about my own personal journey, it was like, okay, I'm actually not in as bad a place as I thought I was. Oh, it's not as complicated as I thought it was going to be. And so it's really just understanding that the options that are available and how they can help or maybe hinder, and finding the right way to protect yourself along the way, right?
Yeah, it's always better to course correct along the way. If you feel you're in a less than ideal position, but you're still working, you're still earning, then that means there's still time, and you can make adjustments. You can you can have a plan in place. You can I think that the planning process empowers people and just gives you new information that you can use to make the right decisions.
It's so true. It's so true. So Matthew, I'm wondering, for women who still feel nervous about talking about money or protection, because it's a very personal, private thing, or can be perceived as personal and private. Sure. And the idea of letting others into what we want and our wishes and our needs can be uncomfortable. So what advice would you have for how they can start conversations with either a partner or a family member or an advisor in a way that feels comfortable and not intimidating?
That's a great question. Great question. And it won't surprise you to hear that I do get this a lot. Women especially finding the first time. So, I think conversations with partners can be difficult to initiate and create a new dynamic to finances. Yeah. But my advice is generally to start small. I find a conversation around a household budget is the easiest way for couples to start the conversation around finances, because it equalizes the responsibility. It's something that both partners contribute to and can probably improve on. So I find that's maybe the easiest way to start the conversation with a partner. Everyone's going to know their own situation differently. But from there, when you start with the conversation around the budget, maybe from there over time, you can gradually move toward talking about a financial plan, investments, the household retirement strategy, that sort of thing. But I know how tough it can be to get started. But if you're recently separated, or perhaps things are going in that direction, I would say, don't be afraid to speak to a professional. Yeah. In my experience, most advisors, certainly myself, my colleagues, happy to meet, discreetly for a casual conversation at a place you're comfortable with. Don't think you have to sign up ahead of time or walk into a big bank with a whole bunch of answers. Reach out to someone, start having a conversation. Listen, maybe it goes nowhere at all, or maybe you find you don't need to go down that route. But I think just giving yourself as much information as possible will be better, and we'll keep going back to it. But I think it will continue to empower you. The more information you have, and the more decision-making ability you put in your own hands.
Yeah, no, agreed. And, we've talked about this, I think every session that we've done, just about the importance of finding somebody that you can talk to, that you feel comfortable with, and whether that's a family member or an expert or an advisor, it really is important to just start the conversation and find somebody that you can trust. And that's why Matthew's here. For me, he's been that person that's really just opened the door to have these, for me, what were originally uncomfortable conversations, and now are like, I can do it, and I can, make the decisions that need to happen, and I know what I need to do next. And so, for those of you who are sort of on the edge about letting others in, I know it's personal. I know there might be some fear or that shame or discomfort, but find somebody that you feel comfortable with. There are great advisors, and shop around. Look for a person who's a right fit for what you want and what you need in your life. And there might be multiple people that you work with along your journey as well, depending on what it is you need.
Yeah, I tell new clients when I'm meeting with them, I mean, this is a journey we're going to take together that lasts, hopefully, the rest of our lives, or we're working together for 10, 20, 30 plus years. So don't rush into it. Meet different people with different experience and backgrounds, and find someone that you're most comfortable with and really want to go down this journey with.
Yeah, I love it. So Matthew, you and I, we always talk about, sort of the practical side of things. Are there any tools or resources that you would recommend that we explore or take a look at to help us in this journey?
There's a great website, Julie. If you can share the link, it's long. I'm not going to try and read it out to everyone here, but if you can share the link, and I know we can share it through email afterwards. This website is a great tool. It's going to walk you through both video, quizzes, and calculators. It's going to give you so many resources on will and estate planning, on planning for the future, on protecting what matters most to you. It's a great resource of information. The Wealthy Barber has some videos on there, so it's easily digestible content. Yeah, it's a great way to dive into what can be I don't know, maybe not the most exciting content, but this is presented in a great way. So check that website out, and we'll send it. I think we can send it along after. And
for everybody who's registered and to follow the series, you'll get a follow-up email after our session, and we'll include this link. And you can still sign up, by the way, countrydrill.ca, and you'll find the pop-up box. You can just register, and I'll get you access to all the videos and to the links and resources that we've talked about. And I'll make sure that we put this one in the chat as well for people, Matthew. So it's a great one. And I know you've given us some really good tools for our other topics as well. So love to see that there's resources. And I love having at least a place to start, because it can feel overwhelming when you're starting to think about, what do I need to do? And where do I even begin to look? So exactly. We are at that. Yeah. We are at the time where, so we've got a good tool, and it's about action, right? And so I always love to have a bit of a reflection as part of our conversations. And so this week, in my action for everybody, what I'd like to encourage you to do is, and I'm going to put this up on the screen, I'd love you to reflect on what if something unexpected happened tomorrow? And I'm not putting that out there in the universe, but let's just be open. Could be something really amazing that shifts and changes your life. If something unexpected happened tomorrow, who would need to know what to do if something had to be taken care of for you? And so take a few minutes just to jot down your answers to that question, and then think about also, what information or documents would they need access to? Where could they find them in the event that you're not around? I always joke at work, and when I'm talking with people, it's funny in this scenario, but I always say, when I win the lottery and I'm sitting on a beach somewhere and I no longer want to, be involved with people, as opposed to something bad happening, but I suppose I could win the lottery and disappear and fall off the face of the earth, change my identity, and leave people stranded. But I won't. Just joking about that. Anyways, back to the topic. Sorry, I totally deviated there. So if something unexpected happened tomorrow, who would need to know what to do, and what information or documents would they need access to, and where can they find them? I don't know about you, but I've seen so many different movies and read so many different stories about people hiding stuff in different spots. I get the idea of wanting to put stuff away in a private spot, but there should be a logical place, or somebody should know where to access that information, so that answers can be gotten in a quick and timely manner if needed. And then I'm always a big fan of this next step. What's one thing you could do this week to make that easier for them or for yourself? right? And so if you haven't done any of those things, maybe your one step is to just do it, to just sit down and make a list of the things that you know you've been procrastinating doing and that you should do, and pick the one thing on how you're going to get started. And I'm going to suggest that regardless, Matthew, we encourage people to find, I'm going to say, a buddy, a partner, an advisor, but find somebody that you can journey with in this conversation, because it's just easier when there's somebody else there to do it. Whether that's your partner, spouse, or an adult kid, a good friend, a trusted advisor, such as Matthew. Find somebody to do this with so you're not alone and feeling overwhelmed with it. What do you think, Matthew?
That's great. I love the exercise. It's something I encourage my clients, but I really like the point you just added. Find someone to go along the journey with and include, because not everyone has family or children or anything. So, but find someone in your life that you can go through this with, because maybe going through the process isn't easy. It's rewarding, it's worth it, but it might not be easy. So find someone you can go through this with. But I have clients that have created documents, folders, either physical or digital, and share with their family members or their trusted advisors. I have a checklist that and a document that I share with my clients that walk you through the key steps and must-haves for planning to protect what matters most. So I can share that with everyone who has registered, and it's a document you can keep and hold on to. It's and literally check off as you complete each step. And I find with it, regardless of your age or stage of life, there will be some parts that are relevant. If you are, if you're in your 20s before kids, but you have a registered account, you still probably want beneficiaries. If you have young children, you certainly need a will. If you're planning for retirement, there's so much more to it. So really, regardless of stage of life, there's some aspect of planning and protecting that you should be going through.
I love that. And I love the idea of sharing that tip sheet. So we'll make sure we exchange that, and everybody who's registered, you'll get a copy of that in our follow-up email. So thank you for offering that, Matthew. Well, my friend, we are coming to the end of this 4-part series. It has been a really fun journey. What final thoughts would you share with the women who've joined us over the last couple of weeks, and especially those who might still feel a wee bit hesitant to take some action? What's some wisdom you have to impart?
Well, first of all, like as we wrap this up, Julie, thank you. I'm very grateful for what you're doing, that you're bringing a community together to talk about something that's maybe a little uncomfortable or difficult, or people are reluctant to seek guidance or answers on. So it's been it's been a real pleasure to go through this stuff with you in a I think, again, easily digestible way. So thank you for that. I guess my advice would be, regardless of where you're at in life, start with your financial plan. Get started. Start thinking about the future. It's coming no matter what. You may as well have a plan. But start with your financial plan. Use that to find the right strategy for your investing. The financial plan should be the foundation of your investment strategy. Don't think you have to do what's popular online. Find what makes the most sense for you. If you're going to retire in the next 5 to 10 years, start thinking about timing your financial goals, what your retirement will look like, what you want it to look like, and then put a plan in place to protect what matters most for you. You don't have to have a large account or know all the answers to seek professional support. So, I recommend reaching out to an advisor to just get the conversation started.
I love it. Beautifully said, my friend. And I think the best thing I heard you say in all of that was just get started. Right? Just do one thing. Of all of the things we've heard of that, the things that Matthew's just suggested, just pick one thing, get started and just do it. And once you get started, everything else, the overwhelm starts to disappear from that process. And it just becomes like, okay, I can do this. And then move on to the next thing and go from there, right?
That's right. I think I lost. We went 4 whole sessions, and right at the end, I have a technical difficulty and get kicked off the internet. But I hope you got all that. It's been
it came 4 weeks. It came through for sure. So for all of you who've joined us for this She's Got Plans series, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being open to the conversations. Thank you for showing up for yourself and for leaning into everything and all the wisdom and the tools and the resources and entertaining what it could mean for you in your life right now. And Matthew, thank you for reminding us that knowledge is power, and especially when it comes to our financial well-being, that the more informed we are, the more in control and empowered we can be, and the more we can live authentically in the life we want to have for as long as we're here to be able to do that. So thank you, everyone who's followed. Matthew, thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to whatever our next adventure together is going to be. We'll have to talk about what that looks like. And again, for anybody who has missed any of our sessions, if you want to share them with a friend, feel free to pass along the YouTube information where you can go and catch the videos. And yeah, my friends, that's when I teach, I always put up on a screen a big thing that says, "That's a wrap, folks," and I'll have a different kind of wrap. And so imagine a big Looney Tunes, "That's a wrap," to our series. And thank you for joining us. Any final words before we say farewell for today, Matthew?
I guess maybe this was for many. I hope this was just the beginning of the conversation. I think because of the different types of people listening in and the difference in the audience, we tried not to get too deep or complicated in any of these topics. So I imagine those listening in week after week may have more questions. Hopefully there's some answers, but probably a lot of questions. So I think we'll reach out, give everyone the chance to ask questions of certainly of me privately. But thank you for joining for the last 4 weeks, and congratulations for taking a step forward in your financial journey.
Mm-hmm. And indeed, and in terms of what's next for me, stay tuned over the next coming weeks. I will be announcing the launch of our new Ignite Women's Speaker Series starting in January 2026. I've got 6 amazing women who are going to be doing some virtual sessions starting in January and right through until May. So stay tuned. I'll be launching a bit more of that. And you can always check out countryjewel.ca for more information. My friends, in living and loving the life we're meant to live, go have a spectacular rest of your day. Be prepared, get started. Just do it, as Matthew says. Get started and go do what you need to do, and have a great rest of your day.